Today, I talk to you about debt recycling, and I'll explain what debt recycling is and talk to you about it from an Australian's point of view. Anyway, let's get into the video. Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Rushop, and as I just said, today I'm going to be talking to you about debt recycling. So I'm going to be explaining what debt recycling is, and obviously this will be from an Australian's point of view. And what I'm going to do is talk to you about the pros, the cons, who it might be for, and what some of the real risks are in this strategy. So the real basic of debt recycling is we want to turn non-deductible debt, which is normally in the form of your home loan, into deductible debt. So obviously this brings with the benefit of being able to claim the interest on your tax return. So that's the real basics of it, but obviously it's much more detailed than that, so let me get into that. So debt recycling has become popular. There's someone called Peter Thornhill who talks about it quite a bit. And the reason it's popular is because we're going to take our house, so it's the one we're living in, that is non-deductible, so we can't claim the interest in our tax return. And what we're going to do is pretty much use that as security for a loan that's going to be used to invest, and therefore the interest on that new investment loan as such is going to be deductible in our tax return. Now straight away, this is going to be complex because anything that involves debt is always another layer of complexity. So it's always going to carry more risk because obviously you're talking about debt, you're talking about money that is borrowed, and especially when we're talking about borrowing to invest, which is therefore more risky, we're starting to increase our risk. Therefore, you want to have a high risk tolerance if you're going to go down a process like this and implement a strategy like this. So before we even get into it, if you don't have any kind of emergency funds, then this probably isn't going to be the strategy for you because again, like I'm saying, higher risk, therefore you want to have more security outside of this strategy. So having an emergency fund, maybe having, if you're in a couple, maybe having both of you earning a wage, that gives you a bit more security if someone was to lose a job. Just having those backups that if something goes wrong, that's not going to all crumble on you. And the other thing you need to consider is what is your loan to value ratio of your house, so LVR, and you want that to be below 80% because otherwise this strategy just wouldn't work because if you're trying to increase your LVR over 80%, then you're going to be paying LMI, which is going to be quite expensive and it's just going to chew up all the tax benefits that you're going to save by doing this strategy. So you want to wait till you've paid down and you've got some equity in your home. Now, before I get into the next part of this video, I really appreciate your support of just watching, even if it's a couple of minutes of my videos. If you can hit that like button, and if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button because these things really help me grow the channel. They help motivate me to keep pumping out more and more videos. And I really hope that these topics are interesting to you and providing you with some value. So as I said, the basics is going to be taking non-deductible debt to deductible debt. And the way that's done is as you pay down your house loan, so we use an example here, we've got a $400,000 property and we owe 300 grand on it. So there's 100 grand of equity there. And we're going to keep paying that down. We want to aim to keep reducing that obviously. As we pay off the loan, it's going to reduce. The way a debt recycling strategy comes in here is we're going to split that loan as it's paid down. Now, how this works is going to depend on what bank you are as to how this actual process will play out. But pretty much, we're going to use that equity. So we want to take that equity that we've got in the property and use that into a new loan. So we're still going to have the same amount of loan. So let's say we've now paid down our loan to 250 grand. And we go, okay, now that 50 grand between the 300 and the 250, we want to split that loan. So we're still going to have a 300 grand loan. But now 250 grand is going to be the house loan and the other 50 is going to be now invested in shares or ETFs or LICs. Now, if this is all done and set up correctly, the interest on that 50 grand loan that's used for investment purposes is going to be deductible because it's going to be producing income, likely in the form of dividends typically here in Australia. And that's why a lot of the time these strategies are set up with more low risk investments, if that's what you want to call them, of ETFs or LICs rather than individual shares, but you can do either. So this means that as our non-deductible loan, our home loan, is reducing, we're going to use those funds to bring them over here into our investment loan, which is going to be deductible. So the end goal is obviously to have a $0 of non-deductible debt, or as close as that to get, and all your debt being deductible. So as you can see, it's really important to have all this set up right because the main purpose is for tax purposes. So we're bringing that higher deductions by having deductible debt. Therefore, you want to make sure this strategy is done correctly because there's no point if you do a strategy like this and it turns out the debt isn't deductible because you haven't set things up properly. So pretty much you continue to pay down the non-deductible debt as you get your investment return. So that might be via dividends. So you're going to keep paying down that non-deductible debt. that non-deductible debt will become deductible debt because it's going to be then borrowed against for investment purposes. And the advantage to this is you're using the property as security. So you should be able to then access lower interest rates than if you would just go take out a loan and to buy some shares with that loan. So this is the other key thing to it, is by using that home security, you're able to access those lower rates because obviously the bank is going to take security of that property against these two separate split loans. So this is a good thing, but it's going to carry with it risk because obviously your home is now security, which means if things go bust, the bank does have the right to take that, even if it's on the shares loan. So clearly you need a high risk tolerance because this is a risky strategy. As I said, we're talking debt and investing. So those two things, even on their own, are risky. Therefore, when they're combined, they're obviously going to really increase that risk rate. So it's really going to be important what you're investing in. So if you don't have the knowledge of that kind of stuff, that's where you may want to seek advice from a financial planner to see whether what type of investments would fit your risk profile, especially in this type of strategy. So the risk obviously is if the price of your ETF or your share significantly drops or dividends get cut, you've still got the loan repayments you need to make on these loans. So you're still going to have to meet those minimum loan repayments. So you want to make sure that you've got enough funds coming from elsewhere. So that's whether it's a wage or a business or maybe other investments. They're going to be able to make sure you can continually hit those loan repayments, because the last thing you want to do is default on one of these loans and therefore your house that's security becomes at risk. The other thing that could happen would be interest rate increases. So obviously at the moment we've got really low interest rates, but they could rise and therefore that would significantly alter your potential minimum loan repayments. So if we were to have an increase to 5 or 6% in interest rates, that's going to definitely increase what you need to be paying back. So are your dividends going to match that, or are you going to have to produce funds from elsewhere to cover these minimum loan repayments? And then the other major risk is, what about if your life circumstances change? So say you might be a 2-income family right now and you decide you want to have kids and therefore you go back to a 1-income family. Can you still meet these? Because normally when you're paying down a home loan, you're reducing the value of that and you may be able to refinance that, or your loan repayments may be able to reduce, or you may be paying extra, so you've got that bit more flexibility. Whereas here, we're still keeping that same debt level the whole way along, it's just split between the non-deductible and the deductible debt. So therefore, what's our strategy if our life circumstances change, income decreases, can we still meet those payments? So as you can see, debt recycling is quite an interesting strategy. It definitely can work in some situations. It's definitely more risky for a strategy than some others. So it's something you really need to make sure you've got your head around how it all works and is it best for your circumstances, and then seek help where you need, whether it's financial planners to give you that investment advice, or whether it's the help of an accountant to make sure you've got the tax deduction side of it set up correctly. I hope that's been helpful and I hope it's explained in a really basic way, but it's definitely an advanced strategy. You need to do more research than just watching one video. Go and read up some articles about it, seek professional help where needed, but good luck with it. I'd love to hear from people in the comments if it's a strategy you're using. I thank you for watching the video and make sure you check out some of the other videos on my channel, and I will talk to you again soon.